Back with you tonight on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. The Organization Undoing Tax Abuses, the 2023 Draft Integrated Resource Plan, or IRIP 2023, contains a number of significant errors, omissions, and inadequacies. The group is calling for it to be reworked and reissued for public comment, meaningful public comment at that, or otherwise it might see itself being challenged in our courts. OUTA CEO Wayne Duvenage and Parliament's Portfolio Committee on Energy, the chairperson, Sahlulele Luzipho, are joining me to work this out and get to the bottom of what is a challenge here. Good to have you both, and thank you very much for coming on this evening. Wayne, let's begin with yourself. I mean, in a nutshell, there are a number of areas that you are finding to be a challenge with the RIP 2023. Firstly, it's just the time it has taken for us to get to RIP 2023, a big challenge for you, but also the time that is given for the public to comment, being an unmeaningful amount of time and seemingly kind of rushed, but also you're saying the assumptions then therefore that are being made because of the time lapse would be wrong in terms of the pricing of the technology, what it will cost, but also not factoring where the public sector is at now and what they are able to bring into the fold. So in a nutshell, that's a sum of it. How would you have wanted the duration question to be approached?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having us on. Firstly, this is it's a very technical matter, and we were expecting the IRP draft after the 2019 one to be available because it's very important that they update it every 2 years. Technology and trends are changing quite rapidly in the greater scheme of things. And here we have 2023, 2 years later, government gives us on the 4th of January their draft IRP and gave us about 6 weeks as the public to comment, to go through this document, which they admitted shortly afterwards that there were some glaring omissions, and they tried to fix it and extended that comment period to I think the 23rd of March just happened now. We asked for at least another month on top of that. We asked for actually 3 months in total. So they haven't given us the amount of time. We've done our best in the assessments of the IRP, but it is a very, very complex matter. We need to look at all the scenarios. We need to bring in our consultants and our experts to analyze it. I think Meridian Economics have done a great job at that as well. We need to study also the assumptions that they've made. So it is a bit rushed, and it is sad because this is a document that we need to plan our energy security on. We're in a mess when it comes to energy, electricity at the moment, and it's as a result of the lack of this type of planning, very important planning, updated on a regular basis that hasn't been happening, and then they rush the commentary period for society to give their input. It's not acceptable.
Yeah. Chairperson, let's bring you in there while we start with that. The missed 2 years, I suspect you might bring the excuse of COVID there as part of the reason why we would have missed the 2 years. But why then do you only give 6 weeks later on, extended a little bit by another month or so, not give the full 3 months like you did with the RIP 2019 and canvass wide community input into this rather important plan that seeks to tackle our energy crisis?
Thank you. Good evening to you, Thabo, and Mr. Duvenage. I think let me first just address one issue, and I'm sorry, my apology if I disappoint you today. Remember, the issue of the IRP is a responsibility of the department and not the portfolio committee, as it forms part of the policy and regulations that are done by the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy. Our duty and task is to make sure that in the process that is underway, has it been done in a manner that would say it is fair? Has it been done consistent with the policy of government around the issue of the alternative sources of energy, the issues of energy mix? So I don't want to enter technical issues, Thabo. Look, the fact that you may have taken 3 months before, one would argue and say, if you calculate the 4th of January and the 4th of February, you would have finished a month, and the 4th of March, you would have finished 2 months. Then it means you only left out of those days with 19 days extra. Must we argue then about the extra 10 or 11 days? I'm not sure. And my view is that let's look at the concrete issues that we need to deal with. I must say in advance, as South Africans, we must learn one thing, and it's not wrong. If we differ and we disagree on something, let's agree that on this one, there is no way that we can find one another. We continue to pursue and lobby, and then be able to find the way forward.
Yeah.
My last issue is just a request to Mr. Duvenage, so that South Africans can have a better appreciation of what has to happen. One, you are raising an issue with regards to the time delay, that this is 2 years behind. This is an issue that should have been done as early as last year, which is 2023, which is why he's saying 2023. Some of us within the portfolio committee have been demanding that the IRP 2023 must be in place. Now you are in the process of consultation. The deadline date would have been the 23rd of if I'm not mistaken, the 23rd of March, which would have been probably yesterday.
Yes.
So the big question now is that if that is the deadline, the contributions that would have been received have not been even processed. I doubt the department would have done this thing. For me, a constructive engagement then says, before as a department you give us the final draft, the final proposal of IRP 2023, can we as stakeholders and society in general understand what are you going to present as the final draft? Right. I think at this stage, if I was in the department, I would...
We'll get to those details, but I want to go back to circle to that. I think that the real issue is not the technicality of whether you have 10 or 11 days left or 23 days left. Is whether or not, as a portfolio committee, having been given this draft by the department, and your job being that, I would presume, to get that input from society, do you think the time it has been given has been meaningful enough for participants to engage with this content? We'll get into the errors in a moment, but then to also give you meaningful feedback.
Now, let me repeat again. The IRP has not been presented to the portfolio committee. It is part of the regulations and policies that the department does. It is a process that has been conducted by the department. It is not, for instance, it's not a legislation. Let me put it like that. Only the legislation will come in many instances will come to the portfolio committee for it to conduct public hearings. My point, therefore, was that it's going to be very difficult, even on the voices that you are raising now, to then make an objective understanding to say, for example, there are these particular gaps that are lacking on the basis of what is being presented. Remember, there are 2 ways that you act as a committee of parliament. The first one is the one that says, in terms of the legislative framework, this is what you can do. The second one is accountability. Accountability, holding that executive to account, is to be able to say, in terms of your regulations that you have put, for example, in terms of the IRP 2023, come and present it to us so that they can be an understanding. Part of the legacy report of the committee, by the way, it might be the last time you are talking to me as a chairperson, hopefully not as a member of parliament. Part of the legacy report, things that we've said, the 7th Parliament Committee on Mineral Resources and Energy, it will still be there, must then be seized with the task of ensuring that the process of the IRP is undertaken, and it is undertaken in a manner that befits the needs, demand, and the contributions that South Africans would have made.
So because you have made the call, I'm sure you also envisage what should have been contained in that IRP 2023, otherwise you wouldn't be calling for it. So Wayne, let's come back to you. You are saying that part of the challenge with what is contained in this erroneous RIP 2023 are the wrong assumptions, for example, around the prices of gas and the technology costs and so on and so forth. Just expand a little bit on that.
No.
Sorry, Chairperson. That's for Wayne, yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah. I think, and thank you, Mr. Chairperson. I think it's very important, though, that the Portfolio Committee understands our plight. Public consultation needs to be meaningful. And it wasn't just the 4th of January, because they reissued it again a couple of weeks later after realizing the outcry of some glaring omissions. And then still, they got a lot of it wrong, and that's what we're commenting on now. So, it's not a matter of another 11 or 12 or 13 days. It's a matter of another month at least. And it's important because it is a complex one. But let's go into some of these. Some of the technology, the costs are outdated, and especially with the new technology, they are set on past bid windows, and we know that the renewable energy costs are coming down quite significantly. So that starts to taint the model and skew it. Battery storage costs are static in the plan, and we know international trends and models again say that these costs are reducing quite significantly, especially in battery storage, but renewables in solar and wind. I think we believe that they've also underestimated the private uptake of solar energy, of producing one's own energy in business and individuals, households. They've still got gas, the car power ships model in there. It's about just over 1,000 megawatts. We know that that's not going to happen. I think they know that that's off the table largely. Fixed gas prices. Again, ludicrous given the scenarios of the currency exchange rates and the international price of gas. There's not enough information on this decision to delay the decommissioning of these current coal-fired plants. And if you just take a look at the current Eskom decommissioning of those coal-fired plants, there's 5 or 6 units that come off in the next by 2032. And the next 5, then that's about 15 megawatts, and the next 5 take another 20 years. And if that's not going to change, because that's what Eskom's plan is, but we hear there's going to be a delay, well, that's not factored in. So you start adding up all of these matters. And another very big vague one, the RRP is still subject to policy adjustments. This is the political angle that is thrown into the mix. Nuclear costs appear to be a lot lower than what they are currently right now, and if we start, it's going to be a lot more. So I can go on, there's a couple more, but all of these factors make for the scenario planning quite difficult. And what we're asking is just redo this. When you get this right input from society, it needs to be redone and go out again. And I think it's very important to know, and you highlighted it earlier, in the 2019 IRP, it's not just about the 3 months that was given. It was about the public consultation processes in person, the road shows that they went on, where the explanations as they are given are then answered, questions are asked in those meetings, and answers are given. And that dialogue, that important public consultation process is
was that the department that did those roadshows?
Yes. All of these are the departments. It's got nothing to do with the Portfolio Committee. I understand that. Yeah. But it's very important that the Portfolio Committee sits in the seat of civil society as well and goes back to the DMRE and says, guys, you haven't done this properly. Yes. Our constitution requires meaningful public consultation. You don't take 2 years to do this and then rush this process. Right. This process is very important.
Back live tonight in that conversation, once again, OUTA CEO Wayne Duvenage and Parliament's Portfolio Committee Chair on Energy and Mineral Resources, Sahlulele Luzipho. OUTA calling for a rework and review of the current draft regulation on the RP 2023. So I suppose, Chairperson, that places why we're bringing you here very clearly, and I hope now you understand. Why we're bringing you here is to say, OUTA is saying, as the Portfolio Committee, you are awaiting this thing to come to you for you to deliberate on. And when it comes to you, of course, the things that you want to look at is to say, did it go through proper consultation? And was this a meaningful document that society could engage with and be able to have meaningful input into it? And as the portfolio committee, as you await this RIP 2023, it should be a concern to you that, one, the seemingly not meaningful consultation that would have happened, but two, the cost that we are dealing with in this draft document are outdated as far as battery storage is concerned, private uptake that has taken place as far as solar is concerned. They are still including a conversation around the car powerships, which is something that I'm sure your portfolio committee has engaged with at length. And so on, and the question around the decommissioning delay, which I know we have spoken to you about. So it's definitely something that has been in your purview. How do you feel with the fact that civil society is saying, hold on a minute, these issues are not dealt with in this draft?
Look, Thabo, there's only one thing I was taught, both in politics and at home, is what I call respect. I respect people as individual and as a collective, but we all know, let's deal with facts. We all know civil society is not monolithic, and civil society is not the entirety of the South African citizenry and populace, but they are very important stakeholders in the process of public consultation. So I don't want us to move towards, you'll get someone who will say, I'm part of the civil society, and I think the process, how it has gone, we see nothing wrong with on 1, 2, and 3. So let's accept that and respect the fact that OUTA, which is one of the civil society formations, there could be others, not only one, I agree. There could be others, there can be 20, there could be 100, but there could be others even if there are 20 on the other side. So the issue of civil society, to me, it requires another objective way of dealing with it. I think we must deal with that issue first. The second thing, Thabo, please, look, I'm not denying and I'm not being technical. Let me tell you, for instance, what Wayne is raising. In the portfolio committee, we used to advertise a period of public consultation, public hearing, where people will make written submissions. And people will make a request. No, we request on the time frame that you were given us. Can you give us an extension? Sometimes they don't even mention what time. We will automatically give them and say, okay, we're giving you an extra month. That's the point I was trying to drive to say. The question of the time frame, whether it's 3 months, whether it's 4 months, and other things, it is subject. Third thing, when I listen to Wayne, I'll be honest with you, he's making very, very fundamental issues of intervention. I'm saying those issues, to the best of my knowledge where I'm sitting, they are contained on the submissions that they have made. Now, we need to see whether the department, in processing those submissions that they have made, does it require to get more time? One thing I must say to South Africans, Wayne, please, I will never undermine you. One of the things civil society must understand is that no individual must sit in a corner, draft something, and then present it, and then it must be accepted. So my view is that when you say it must be rewritten, it must be rewritten on the basis of the submissions that you are making. Let's not give the people who drafted the IRP so much super thinking powers to an extent that what they are doing, those submissions must be made in order to convince them. The fourth issue that I must raise in this thing is that I don't want to enter, because then it will be wrong, and I agree with you, although I must not be biased. I must support what civil society says. Again, it depends how we arrive at that conclusion. But the point I don't want to do is to enter now to contest what civil society, including OUTA, is raising. It will be irresponsible of me as a public representative to say so. I think they are entitled on the issues that they are raising. Now, the last thing that you are talking about, Thabo, even when we're dealing with issues like your mining charter and other things, we then say, come, that's what the portfolio committee will expect to do of the 7th Parliament. Come, can you present to us this IRP 2023? Yes, we feel that the process that we have undertaken has not been consultative enough. That portfolio committee has got a right, authority, and responsibility, if it comes to that conclusion, to then say what recourse are we going to do. It may decide to conduct its own public hearings so that it can allow South Africans to make a contribution and make that particular decision. I think at this stage it will be prematurely as a portfolio committee to make a judgment call whether this thing has happened or not. It means by the time this presentation is made, we either disadvantage those who are in the civil society who feels that the process was not procedurally fair, the process was not substantively attending to their issues, or were disadvantaging the department. So I think it will be proper that that portfolio committee, it start now to make a hearing on what it is proposed as a final product of the process of consultation.
I wonder, though. I mean, I understand your process, and I understand, I accept that that's the process. That's how it's done. But I wonder, though, if you are not beginning, even yourself, to think that it will be too late in the process. Like, all these things would have then happened, and then eventually, right, the department brings you a report. Only then after will you be able to then act on the fact whether there was enough participation and whether or not there were areas, substantial issues that OUTA is raising. But it's too late in the process where you are being given a heads up now ahead of the time, and you're saying, my hands are tied at this particular point, there's nothing I can do, even if those issues are substantial, even if the issues that you are raising are important and they are true. Not up until the point where the department actually brings this report to me would I be able to then look at it and assess and say there was not enough input from society.
No, Thabo, you are unfair. Which rule will you use first in Parliament? Which rule of Parliament will you use? The second thing is that there is a process of consultation by the department. You then say, once it is consulting, you then say, come here, let's engage. I'm saying when the department has done its own part, even in the legislation, when they draft the legislation and it has to come to Parliament, you wait for it first to come and be finalized with its own internal process of consultation. Then out of that, you are then allowed to go out. We must understand also the powers that a portfolio committee has. That portfolio committee has got a right, even if you say it's a finalized, to say, no, this process was not fair. We must reopen the process of consultation, and these are the key issues that you need to attend to. So I don't think we should create a situation where we create expectations of powers that portfolio committees of Parliament have when they don't. It is still in the stages of public consultation. The last thing, what will inform that portfolio committee to make that undertaking? OUTA, they've got a right when the IRP comes out and there's no consultation. Currently, where I'm sitting, there's been no submission that has been sent to the portfolio committee to say, we are not happy with the way that this process is underway. So until such time those things are done, then that portfolio, that is why we said we are leaving this as part of the priority areas that the committee on the 7th Parliament must be able to attend to. And I think it is fair because we are doing what is within the confines of the law and with the confines of the rules of Parliament. We are an established committee of Parliament through the rules that Parliament operates within. So we don't have powers that we derive out of our will, out of our own. I may support OUTA, but I must respect that it is not my terrain. It is the terrain of the collective in the portfolio committee that will have to attend and assess those issues.
When it seems, I mean, of course, we are jumping the gun as far as the portfolio committee is concerned, but the committee also suggesting that it could be that even yourselves, you would need to then await the final processes of the department to then have a look at the final draft to say whether the issues that you would have submitted were taken into consideration before you even call for a review and a rework.
Yes, and I think Mr. Luzipho is right. That our message is to the DMRE, the department themselves, to say, look, you are erring in the time that you're giving us to go through these documents, to prepare our submissions, and that your document, the IRP, is grossly lacking in so many areas. So the message really to them is redo this. Take the input that you're going to get now and redo it. And I think that might very well happen, by the way, because Because if they take the input that is coming and just speaking to a number of organizations that we engage with regularly, there are going to be a number of submissions made with a lot of technical input. And I agree, we can't speak on behalf of the entire civil society or the public. Let's see how many submissions they do get, and let's see what percentage of those raise concerns, similar concerns, even different concerns and others. And let's see how many of them are happy with the current IRP. But we believe that when they do get this input, they're going to have to rework it. And when they rework, it's going to be such a different setup, because only once you have all of the information, some of the questions that we have, and the scenarios and assumptions, can we then comment when they put that into the IRP, so the next draft. So we believe that there's going to have to be another round of consultations, but it's going to remain to be seen, I think.
Gentlemen, I appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on and ironing this out with us this evening. OUTA CEO Wayne Duvenage and Parliament's Portfolio Committee Chair on Energy and Mineral Resources, Sahlulele Luzipho.